And we're live! Hello everyone, welcome back to the dungeon. So, as you might notice from the title, today we're going to be doing another short little stream talking about some Dungeons and Dragons. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about Out of the Abyss. So, it's going to take a little bit of time, because I'm just kind of going off the cuff here. So, for those of you who don't know, Out of the Abyss is an official Dungeons and Dragons adventure published by Wizards of the Coast. And it is a particularly difficult adventure. Case in point, the group I was playing with was honestly a fairly large group at the beginning. And it took us about a year and a half before we actually finished it. Now, keeping in mind, the DM at the time did actually throw in some extra stuff in there as well, including a nice little epilogue adventure that took place after the conclusion of the official adventure itself, which was actually a very fun adventure to go into. Now, with this being such a long adventure, I have to admit I don't recall every bit of the details, of course. So for the most part, I'll be telling it from the perspective of the characters I played over the course of the adventure. Yes, by the way, characters, plural. Over the course of this adventure, only one character made it from the beginning all the way to the end. Everybody else died. A lot. So for today's episode of talking about Out of the Abyss, I'll mostly be telling it from the perspective of my first character I played during this adventure, which was Hans Wolfhard. So Hans was originally human, and rather elderly human, in fact, from the noble background. He, however, came to the Abyss because of a curse put upon his family. So it turned out that his entire family's fortune was founded upon an item that his father found and sold. This item turned out to be an artifact devoted to some sort of demon. I'm sure those of you with a background in the Dungeons and Dragons can take a guess which one it was, as the effect of this curse transformed Hans into a minotaur. So Hans, in the form of a minotaur, which at the very least gave him quite a bit of strength, even for an elderly gentleman such as himself, was able to travel down into the Abyss, where he would meet the rest of the party. The party itself, and in general, when starting out the Abyss, he actually stood in a prison operated by the Drow of the Underdark. Unfortunately, I was not there for the very beginning, so I don't know all the details of the prison break that took place, having actually met the party after their escape. On their way out from the prison itself, Hans encounters them, having just broken away from his own captors, and helped the party fight off a vicious Vrak that was attacking them. After the party, now joined by Hans, continue away from the dungeon. They make their way to the city of, and you have to pardon me if I get the name wrong. This is a bit of a crazy name. Sloopaladoop, I want to say, was the name of the place. Some crazy water town ran by Kuto, which are these weird little fish people who create all these sorts of crazy idols that they worship. So, us alongside a whole bunch of NPCs that they rescued from the prison as well, travel to Sloopaladoop. Along the way, they butt heads a little bit with some of the NPCs, in particular a orc by the name of Varant, who is trying to be big man on campus. Is even attempting to steal food from Hans, who very quickly kind of doesn't beat him up, but he gives him that stern old man talking to, which really seems to dissuade his actions. Once they arrive at Sloopaladoop, however, they attempt to negotiate obtaining some transport away from the place and towards one of the cities further into the Underdark. When out from the water rises our first look at the Demon Lords and the big plot of Out of the Abyss as a whole. The Demogorgon, one of the demon princes, and the first of many that we'll be encountering over the course of the adventure. As I said before, if you're not familiar, Out of the Abyss is about essentially a ritual gone wrong in the Underdark that, well, or maybe gone right, depending on perspective, that has summoned forth not one, not two, but all of the demon princes from the Abyss, and they're now running rampant in the Underdark. So this was also our first introduction to a optional mechanic in Out of the Abyss. I say optional, but I feel like the campaign works a lot better when used, which is the mechanic of madness. So madness takes the form of a special and extra ability score. Your standard ability scores in D&D, if you don't know, are strength, dex, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. In this campaign, you add an additional ability score called Sanity. Sanity, unlike those other scores, is only rolled to save against madness, and the skill is based off of the average of your charisma, intelligence, and wisdom. Now, the way this works is whenever crazy things happen, such as demon princes appearing out of the dark lakes, the party has to roll a madness save to see if their mind can handle the terrible thing they just witnessed. This was pretty rough for us, especially being our first encounter with the Demon Lord, as I recall, myself included, a good majority of us actually failed this check and just sort of fumbling about, falling fearful and stunned at the sight of this terrible creature, leaving the rest of the party to have to try to pull us up and out of the water and into the boats, which was quite difficult for my rather large character. One of the characters who really took the lead on this was Draven. Draven, as I mentioned before, only one character made it from the beginning to end. Draven was that character. Draven was a paladin and a half vampire from a homebrewed race that we were using for the adventure. He is the only character made it from the beginning all the way to the end. And this was first of many times that he pulled the party out of a pretty terrible situation, as he managed to help get everyone up onto the boats and away from the docks of the city, which were now being destroyed by Demogorgon. So, sometime down the road, we travel along the river and reach a bank and continue more on foot. As we go, there were various times in which we actually had to run away from the drow who ran the prison, who being very vindictive and hateful, refused to simply let the party go, of course, and came chasing after them, attempting to capture, or if that would become unsuccessful, kill the rest of the party. So many chases led us astray off the path we were attempting to go to try and make it to dwarven cities higher up in the Underdark. One such case led us down a tunnel that would prove to be rather deadly for members of the party. So in this tunnel, we're walking along, and from a crevice off to the side, we hear the sounds of approaching goblins. Me and another character, a fighter we had at the time by the name of Oda, decided to take a peek, and we see a group of hobgoblins on the hunt. None of us speak Goblin, but we assume, as you probably shouldn't, but hey, what are you gonna do? New game, new players. That these guys were on the look for us and probably already found us, so we decided to get the jump on them. So Hans and Oda squeezed through this tiny crevice to go and attack them, only to realize that there were a lot more than just 2 or 3. No, we're talking it was somewhere between 5 and 10 dudes, if I'm recalling correctly. And this is still a pretty early campaign, so we don't have much in the way of hit points or abilities or anything. And if you don't know, hobgoblins, though they themselves, the base hobgoblin, is a very low level enemy to fight off against. But of those lower level enemies, definitely one of the higher difficulty ones, I would say, boosting a particularly high AC, as well as a special ability that, when grouped up with other hobgoblins, allows them to deal extra damage. Which, especially early game, anything that says extra damage is bad news when you're not the one using it. So me and Oda are desperately fighting against these dudes, while the rest of the party is struggling to even reach us, as this crevice only allows one person to squeeze through one at a time at half their speed. As the fight starts to go south, we attempt to back up away from the fight back down this crevice, which it kind of reached a point in which my Hans and the personality of the fighter both begin to kind of conflict a little bit, as both of them are very honorable and self-sacrificing individuals. Both of them are trying to be the hero and be like, no, you go ahead, I'll hold them off, which makes us lose a bunch of time. And I can't remember who cast it, but somebody cast like Crowd of Daggers in the crevice with the intention of slowing down the hobgoblins, but kind of forgetting that it would affect us too. So we're trying to shield each other as we go through this hole. Hobgoblins are still hacking at us, just having a grand old time. And to be frank, just kind of long story short, by the end of this fight, yeah, there's a bunch of dead hobgoblins, but also a dead Hans and Oda, as we experience our first deaths of the campaign. Now, I'm sure what you're thinking, okay, well, what do you roll next? I'm actually not going to tell you about my second character, as since for the most part, the most I remember about this campaign is basically my perspective on things, I'm going to keep it to telling you about one character at a time. And believe it or not, this is actually not the end of Hans' story. Over the course of this campaign, Hans is resurrected not once, not twice, but 3 times. Then this would be the first time. So, sometime later, DM kind of sidebars me and tells me of a little secret scene going on off to the side, where the Drow who are following us have captured and revived Hans, and are now interrogating him, trying to get him to spill the beans on where the party is traveling, even saying that they know how to break his curse. Hans, not trusting them and not wanting to sell the party, lies to them and attempts to deceive them and trick them into believing that they are traveling back to the prison in search of some of the other party members they lost back when the Demogorgon attacked, which I think I forgot to mention before, but we actually got separated by quite a few of the NPCs pretty early on as a result of that attack. Luckily, nobody that becomes super important. Sorry, thirsty. Having some tea. The Drow feign that they believed him, but sometime down the road, they bring him to some docks and meet up with some Duergar, which obviously pretty big red flag right away, as nobody in the Underdark likes to work together, let alone Drow and Duergar, who are both hateful and hate everyone and everything. So, turns out, the Drow didn't believe him from the start. Hans isn't exactly a good liar, and the Drow are very inquisitive. These ones in particular run operating a prison in a slaving ring. They, since Hans tricked them, have decided to sell him off to a place in the Underdark that I don't know if it's actually part of the official adventure or if it's something that the DM made up himself. I believe he made it up himself, and I'm glad he did, because it turned out to be a very fun place that we actually would have a couple of encounters with, known as the Underdome. So the Underdome was like this big coliseum operated by the Duergar. They would bring in slaves act as gladiators for the Underdome, and have them fight against each other, as well as various monsters to capture and throw into the ring. And Hans has just become the newest member of the Underdome. So, sometime down the line, the party, during their adventures, managed to actually find themselves at the Underdome. And lo and behold, when they are there, and lucky enough to not be there as contestants, who do they see? But Hans, in the dome, in the middle of the fight. Hans has been doing his best to basically not fall prey to the dome itself. He's managed to keep himself alive and keep his sanity as he does his best to not kill opponents. Not knowing that they're in, just bad situation as he is, and doesn't really want to force that upon them. The party orchestrates this big breakout alongside a bunch of the the prisoners of the Underdome, who, of course, also want to be free. We meet a couple of fun characters here. I'm gonna be frank, a lot of what happens here is very inspired by, if you've seen Thor Ragnarok, yeah, picture that when they're breaking out of that Colosseum place. That's about what goes down. So they work together to bust out of this place. They fight numerous guards, and at one point they did actually rather smoothly getting Hans and a few other prisoners out, as they simply bought us off of the owners of the place, which really made things a lot simpler than I thought they would be. On our way out, we actually get our first look of someone else who would become a long-term villain of the campaign, the Ward of Darkness. Now, the Ward of Darkness barely pays us any mind. Like, we're barely a blip on his radar at this point, because we're not particularly strong at all. He is this big old Death Knight, accompanying this, what the DM basically describes as a drop-dead handsome individual. The two of them are heading to the Underdome, presumably to get involved in some fights. They completely ignore us because we're too weak at the time to even be bothered with. One of the party members decides to test this out, and sensing that he is in fact an undead and evil being, launches an attack from a distance, which is very easily deflected and then returned with a big explodey fireball that almost kills half the party. Luckily, we survive and make our way away from them on boats once again. So, reunited with Hans once more. The party continues away. It's not too long after this that we actually encounter our first... Well, did I say first? That's the opposite of what this is. It is our final encounter with the Drow from the prison. On our way out, nearly to the exit, we come upon these Drow again, who have set up an ambush. We're near a couple days away from the edge of the Dwarven City. That will be our freedom from the Underdark. But the Drow have set up an ambush. Their leader, if I recall, her name was Elvira, I want to say. That might have been a different character. If I'm wrong, I am sorry. But yeah, so they've set up an ambush, and we gotta fight our way through it. So we get into this big old fight. Even come to blows with one of the Drow, who actually was acting as our man on the inside. He was attempting to help us, not really because of any like noble reasons, but because he wanted to create better standing for himself. We attempt to keep him alive in the fight, but he, after being caught helping us, is a little less willing to help out. But as he's the last one standing, and we simply refuse to kill him, he kind of gets the wind knocked out of his sails. And Draven attempts to convince him to come with us, but completely defeated, deflated, and kind of resolve broken, he wanders off into the Underdark, not to be seen for quite some time. So, next comes kind of our last leg of the journey for this part of the adventure. We're almost there. We know that we're reaching the end of the Underdark when Hans hears a voice whispering to him in his head. Telepathically, you see. He hears someone pleading for help. He almost ignores it, having encountered so many bad things in the Underdark thus far, but holds on to his Paladin oath and goes to assist with this. Oh, you know what? I forgot to mention that. Hans was a Paladin. That was his class. He was a Paladin, Oath of the Ancients. So yeah, very, very, very good, wholesome dude. So, they travel along, so they travel following the sound of the voice and reach this hidden temple within the Underdark. This temple is filled with magical traps, including this hole in the wall that just contains a sphere of annihilation, which we at first mistake for just a pitch black hole, so Hans sends forward a drift globe that they acquired earlier into it to investigate. And a good thing he sent that in first, because it's destroyed immediately, and they realized had one of them crawled inside, they would have just died. They would have just died and be able to do nothing about it. So luckily they saw through that trick. A couple of interesting traps here and there later. We reach the bottom of the temple and battle, I want to say, with some sort of undead. This was this was quite a while back. I can't really recall what it was we fought to get it, but we fought the Guardian of this place. We're victorious. All in all, I'd say definitely one of our easier fights at this point in the game. And we recover what will become probably one of the best items we acquire over the course of the whole campaign, which is Dawnbringer. So Dawnbringer is a sentient sun sword. If you don't know, sun sword is basically a lightsaber. It's a sword made of light, sheds very bright light, as well as it deals extra damage to undead. So Hans is the first wielder of Dawnbringer, who, as I said, is a sentient sword and very nice, wholesome sword, honestly. So wielded by Hans, they take their new ally / weapon and begin to make their way out of the Underdark, getting plenty of chances to use it along the way, from minor undead, other denizens of the Underdark, and the various demons that are plaguing the place at the time. We finally reach the end of our path, and nearly reaching the Dwarven City, we come across this terrible creature that has long since plagued our memories of what has happened in that campaign. And that creature's name was... Let me actually go find it, because I can't remember what it was called, but it was terrible. It was a terrible, awful thing that damn near killed the entire party. Let's see. Should be here somewhere. Ah, yes, here we go. So a creature by the name of a Sibriex. Sibriex is this horrifying, awful, terrible demon that is kind of just this floating amalgamation of just melted-looking body parts. And this thing, as I said, nearly killed the entire party. It had a constant poison effect when you were too close to it. Additionally, when under the effects of this poison, it mutated the party's body. Over the course of the fight, Hans grew a second head. A second deformed head, so it's like I didn't get any decent benefits from it. It's just this terrible thing. And through a combination of these poisonous mutations, and the acidic attacks of the creature itself, over the course of this fight, everyone died except Draven. And even Draven manages to kill the creature just barely, but he himself isn't even able to remain unscathed, as his mind is mutated and he gets his intelligence reduced so low that he's unable to even comprehend what has happened. And for the next 3 days, clutching desperately onto his Dawnbringer, hides away. At the end of these 3 days, he finally regains his senses and realizes what's happened. His entire party is dead, and he is alone. And as all alone, he walks a mere half-day's walk to the Dwarven City, where safety was just a couple hours away, as he is alone once more. Now, within this Dwarven City is actually where the party manages to actually rally. With Draven gathers new companions to help him not go back to the surface, as that would be an easy thing at this point, but instead to gather counsel with the dwarves and other guilds of the surface world and put together a party to descend back into the Underdark and kill these demons once and for all. Now this would be the point in which I would actually introduce you guys to my third character, if it wasn't for the fact that we're talking about Hans today. As I said, Hans was resurrected 3 times, and the 3rd time takes place actually pretty late into the adventure here. Actually, while I was playing a totally different character. So, quite a ways down this path, the party accompanied party now comprised of totally new individuals from various prominent guilds in our setting, which is a homebrew setting, by the way, so I won't go into the specifics for now, because I would need to look at the DM's campaign notes to give you all the good details on that. So Draven makes his way sometime later. They're traveling into the labyrinth, which which is a place created by a demonic item known as the Maze Engine, a tool of Baphomet, the demon prince of Minotaurs and other such nonsense. And, as I'm sure you can guess, based on that description, the one who is the cause of Hans's curse. At this point, the party has actually managed to find a horn of Baphomet. This item is actually the cause of the curse upon Hans's family. And within the Maze Engine, or not the Maze Engine, but within the maze where they found the Maze Engine, they come upon an item that essentially enhances another one of the wild things affecting the Underdark, which is a mechanic called Physesis. Physesis is this sort of mist that is warping sort of the fabric of space within the Underdark as a effect of the abyss leaking through. And basically, whenever you're in the effects of Physesis, anytime you use a spell, there's a chance of something, basically the equivalent of a Wild Magic's Sorcerer's Wild Magic table. If you're familiar with that, basically some crazy random ass thing is going to happen. So, in close proximity to the Maze Engine, an exceptionally crazy thing happens, and 2 deceased characters are resurrected right then and there, right in front of the party, as they were battling against some demons within the labyrinth. So the DM rolls the dice, and we get back 2 characters. The first is one of our favorite NPCs who also died against that terrible creature, which is Jimjor, actually our favorite NPC from it. So I should have mentioned him earlier. He was our favorite NPC from Out of the Abyss. He was a gnome gambler who later on we discovered to actually be a gnome god. But that's a little bit of another story. We'll get into that later. And the second character is Hans, resurrected once more. Confused very much about what has happened, but willing to right away jump back into the fray to help the party, recognizing Draven. So together they fight the demons and travel on through the labyrinth. Draven, who has been in possession of the horn, offers it to Hans, who gratefully holds on to it until they can onto it. Now, the deal with this horn was, if he returns it to the cultists who placed the curse upon his family, they return it to them and they'll undo it. Now Hans, fully realizing what's at stake here, decides not to return the horn, but is holding on to it until they can find a way to destroy it. Which now brings us to what they were searching for in the labyrinth. Within the labyrinth, there was a place where it is said that there were angels petrified. The party needs to recover some of the petrified feathers of these angels to help reverse the ritual that was used to summon the demons. The party's here looking for that, and not only that, but this place also answers questions. So, as the party travels along, they go and they discover the answers to these questions, and discover that within the labyrinth there is a place where there is a lava pool, that the Maze Engine rests above. Not only can they use this to destroy the Maze Engine, but they can use it to destroy the horn as well. And so the party travels deeper into the labyrinth and to destroy it. And one of the reasons why they want to destroy the Maze Engine, if I didn't mention it before, which I don't think I did, is so long as it is active, it will continue to expand the labyrinth until it would eventually cover basically everything. So the party travels to this place, and along the way, they encounter him, the man and cause of the labyrinth himself, and the cause of Hans's curse, Baphomet. So the party is in no situation to fight him. Hans certainly has his own beef with this guy, but he's no fool. And neither is the other character I'm playing at the time, who I will tell you about at a later time, because she lasts a little bit longer and kind of deals with a bunch of other stuff. Yeah. So the party attempts to flee from him. Along the way, though, however, we now have some characters who are a bit slower than everyone else, having been on effects of madness and other such injuries. So as we run, Baphomet begins to gain on us. So Hans, this was when Hans made his final sacrifice for the party. He throws the horn, giving it back to Draven, and tells him to flee with the others. A couple others attempt to stay back with Hans to try to help hold off Baphomet, but Hans isn't trying to keep him there indefinitely, of course. He's simply trying to hold him back while some other party members who fell unconscious are able to regain their senses. Hans does his best, holding them off the best he can, and those party members who fell unconscious even regain their senses and can manage to exit the path that was stuck in. But it's too late for Hans, and no one's able to help him as he is struck down by Baphomet, for the final time being killed. Now, luckily, though, at the very least, there was some bit of closure at the loss of Hans, as the party is able to take the horn and reach the maze engine. They cast the horn into the fire, destroying it, as well as the maze engine itself, which they force into the bottom of the lava pit as well. With both destroyed, the labyrinth and shrinks down, not destroyed completely, but unable to grow further, and the party begins to find the way out of the labyrinth, now a party member short. And I'm sorry to say that, unfortunately, it was actually during that fight that I lost the other character I was playing as well. That's right, I lost 2 characters in a single fight. It was rough, guys. If you ever played Dark Souls, Out of the Abyss is the Dark Souls of D&D. But yeah, so that's the conclusion of Hans's story in Out of the Abyss. Now, luckily, each of the characters I have are basically able to cover some different aspects of our Out of the Abyss adventure. Hans mostly covering a lot of the earlier game stuff, and sort of our first encounters with a lot of things, such as the Demon Lords, madness, effects of diseases. He sort of acted as a lot of introduction to a lot of that stuff, as well as how easy it is to get a character killed in this campaign. So the next time, I'll continue the story by telling you about the second character I played, a warlock by the name of Nazgul, who would go on to actually become a villain of this campaign. So more on that later. For now, though, hello. Hello. Oh, okay, that makes more sense. Hello. Nice to see you. Good morning. If it's morning where you are, it's morning here. Yep, I was talking about some D&D, some adventures from Out of the Abyss. Actually, just was wrapping up. Yep. Yeah, so the next time... Oh, you got something for me. What's this? Ooh, new follower, yay! Thank you. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Alright, well... Seems like that seems like an even better way to end it then. So yeah, so that's all I got for that story. See you later, man. Hope I see you next time. Yeah. Yeah, I'll probably be doing another old D&D story on Dragon Ball Z. You know, the funny thing is, a lot of time that is how we start our campaigns. Is we do like last time on D&D in the story, and sort of the announcer voice, right? When we do all our recaps. A lot of times we do that so everyone can remember what happened. Our campaigns tend to be filled with lots of anime references, especially JoJo references lately. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So sometime next weekend, probably like Sunday or Monday, unless something comes up. Oh, thank you. Made it myself. I'll do another D&D story. I'll tell you about the second character I played doing Out of the Abyss. And then, don't really have any other announcements. Tonight, I'll be streaming some more Hades. When you stream? Yeah, tomorrow at 8:30, I'll be streaming some... Well, about 8:30, I'll be streaming some more... I think tomorrow I'll be doing Ender Lilies. What's the time there? 11:20 right now. It's like Central Time. But yeah, so yeah, Hades tonight, 8:30, and then tomorrow at 8:30 more Ender Lilies, and we'll just kind of follow the schedule from there. So I've been your guys' host as usual. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you to new follower Ishan. Not sure if I said that right. I'm sorry if I didn't. And I yeah, see you guys next time. Ishan. Okay. Ishan. Yep. Alright, so see you guys next time. Thanks again for watching. Bye.